Hello people, what is going on? Welcome back to E20 Zone TV. I hope you haven't forgotten about us. We are still here. To my right is Jay, you know who he is. And we're here to talk about Nicholas Füllkrug's injury, which is bad news, and players, strikers, who's going to start in North London. Jay, how are you doing, man?
I am very well, thank you, my friend. I'm happy we are back. The international break is almost over. And you couldn't ask for a bigger fixture to come back to, could you? So yeah, very well, mate. Very excited. How are you?
I'm glad the international break's over. Right, that has been slow and depressing to a point. Do you know what I mean? Just sitting there, just waiting for West Ham to come back into our lives. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't understand how long. This is the first time ever that I felt like an international break. It's just took them so long to, get end to a point. Do you know what I mean?
There's so many of them at this stage of the season as well, isn't there? There's all this talk about fixture congestion and it's so hard to get some momentum. If we had 2 international breaks already this season, we played 7 Premier League games, and I think there's another one before Christmas as well. Maybe I'm not sure, but it just feels like too much for me. But either way, like we're back now. Let's enjoy it until the next one at least.
Yeah, I agree. What do you make of Nicholas Füllkrug's injury? It's reported that he is unavailable for Spurs.
So let's get this right, and maybe someone in the chat can help me out, because as the week has progressed, as the days have progressed, even the last couple of days, read so many completely different stories. I've not known an injury be reported so differently in so many different places. Obviously, there's certain sources you trust more than others. But at one point, he was nearing fitness. Then he'd had a setback. Then the setback was only he lacks a bit of fitness and he might be on a bench for Spurs. Then it was he's not available for Spurs and United. Then I've seen whispers that he's out till January from somewhere. Again, I've not seen that from a reputable source. So I've got no idea what's going on. All I know is we've done okay so far this season without him. I'm confident we can do okay without him again. Whether we do, I've got no idea, to be honest. We'll see whether we manage to come up with a plan to beat Spurs. I'm obviously really keen to see Nicholas Füllkrug actually play at full speed. And I want to get this right as well, because there's a lot of people who are writing this bloke off already. I've spoken in a few videos that I'm not one to try and to write a player off before we've given him his chance. Now, he arrived and he wasn't fully fit. Like, he was playing at the Euros. You can't really blame him. Pretty much all the players who were playing at the Euros arrived and they were not sharp and they were not fit. We start trying to bed him into the lineup. International break, the last international break, he gets injured. He's not fit, and then he has a setback. Let's not write the bloke off just yet, in my opinion. Nobody could have foreseen that he was going to pick up an injury in the previous international break. Your mind goes back to poor old Dean Ashton, who was setting the world on fire, got an injury on international break and was never the same player. That wasn't his fault. That wasn't the fault of the blokes that signed him. That was just pure... Well, Sean Wright Phillips' fault, actually. But it was pure bad luck that he got a serious injury on international duty and he was never the same player. So I just want to get that right. I'm not here to try and write the bloke off. It's unfortunate. I'm still confident that he can be a success at West Ham. We're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. If anyone can tell me how long that's going to be, then please do, because I've got no idea at the moment. And it would be good to get some clarity as to what the actual situation is. I don't know if you know any more or have read anything different to that, James. But yeah, I'm still confused as to what the situation is.
Well, there's an injury that's supposedly wasn't going to take that long to get over, and now it's taking longer than expected. I agree with you. Listen, I don't agree with the signing at the start of the season. I don't. But I can't knock the geezer because he hasn't done nothing yet. Do you know what I'm saying? Listen, he's got injured. He's been unlucky. So we've got to be honest. How can we judge him? How can we? I see people on social media. This social media does make me fucking sick. I'm not going to lie. Is when you got these cunts on there just keep going on and on and on about the transfer window, but also praising up Steiden and saying he's the Messiah, but then looking at the striker front and not accepting that. Listen, for me, yeah, until he's in a shirt and he plays 10 games, then you can get a fair assessment of him. At present, we can't assess this geezer because he hasn't played. He's played a substitute appearances here and there, and he hasn't done anything of any note as yet. So I do feel that it's very harsh on him, but I can understand the frustration. But we've got players there who can go into that role. Now, for me, um, who goes in that role for Spurs for you?
Do you know, I was thinking about this, right? Because when we were going to sit down and have this discussion, I thought Spurs is probably I hate saying it's like the biggest game of the season because I don't want to give them the satisfaction of thinking that we think this is as big as it actually is. And for me, over the last few years, it's kind of become less significant as we've had more to focus on. We've been flying in Europe. We've been fighting at the top half of the Premier League for the last 4 seasons, bar one. But in that season, we won something, which is more than Spurs can say. So I don't want to give them the satisfaction of saying that it's a big game, but it is a big game. Ultimately, we can't escape that. Now, what are the options that we're saying? So you've got your obvious option of Mikel Antonio. You've got the plan B of Jared Bowen. You've got plan whatever it is of Danny Ings, or potentially plan maybe double Z of Mohamed Kudus. I don't know what you think of that, but
I'm not on that, mate. Like, and when people are calling for Mo to go up front, I think they're mad. Like, Mo is better deep. He picks the ball up and he runs. You want this man carrying the ball and taking people on and driving us forward. You don't want him in the final sort of attacking third and sitting there waiting for a chance. I would go, for me, I've always said this, Bowen up front, Kudus on the right. Bowen as a centre forward can do the job. Like he done it last year, he can do it again. He's not shit in that position. You've got a player who's not naturally fits that position, but can do that position decent. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to sit there and criticize the geezer and say, oh well, he can't be doing it. Mo, not for me. I think you've thrown him in against Spurs. If he has a shit game, everyone comes on him, all over him straight away, and saying, like, what's he doing? Danny Ings. If you're crying for Danny Ings, then fuck me. Is that how far we've come? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, let's be fucking real. Like, if we're asking for Danny Ings right now, then we have gone down the pan to a point. You know what I'm saying? And then Antonio, it's a tricky one with Antonio because he's just come back from Jamaica. So what do you do with him? Is this the right game for Mickey to come into from the start, or is this the right game to start off with a front four which is fluid, and then 70th minute Antonio comes into play?
Mate, it's such a good question, and there's 2 big factors at play here. One that you just mentioned, which I actually hadn't thought about, which is that he's just come back from Jamaica. So we know that he struggles with 2 games in a week. Like it's not news to anyone. That's definitely going to play a factor in a game that will be high pace and will be physical. Can we afford to have a Mikel Antonio who, let's be honest, will probably be gassed after like 35 minutes? We'll get a good half hour out of him because it's a big game. He'll be up for it. But after that, he's out on his feet. You could see from the last game. I don't know whether it translated to however people were watching the last game, but he looked done in the second half. He was trying, but he looked done in the second half for me. And it's fortunate that we were playing against a really poor Ipswich side. And we got through it, and we were at a canter once it was 3-1. So now you got to look at the other side of it as well. Look at the way Spurs play, and they play a very high line. Van der Ven is what a crazy centre back he is. I'm not going to say he's sensational because he's got a clanger in him. But in terms of like just raw pace, positioning, and ability to drive the ball forward, he's like nothing I've ever seen. He's a really, really good footballer. So to come back to the point of, do we play Antonio or do we play Bowen? Well, if you put Bowen up front, and you try and play balls through and break that high line, Bowen's not quick enough to outpace Van der Ven. There's not many strikers in the league who actually are. As much as I'm happy for that to be a tactic, I think we learned from last year that we weren't very good at breaking that high line. We beat them there, but we got caught offside so many times. And for me, if you stick Mo on the right and some of it on the left, there's a case that will work, but I don't see Bowen being effective against that high line. if you look at it the other way and you say, if you start Mikel Antonio, we ain't going to outpace him, but Antonio could bully those centre-backs. I'm confident that physically he'll be too strong for him. He won't be too quick, but again, the question we've got to ask is that going to win you a game of football?
Not from the start for me, though, Jay.
That's the thing. And that's the thing. I'm completely torn because I don't think it's the right game for Bowen, but I don't think Antonio is fit to start. And I don't think we should start Danny Ings. So I really don't know what we should do, to be honest.
Let's get to this comment from Michael. Shout out to Michael. Hope you're well, mate. Afternoon, guys. Start a false nine, give Jimmy a go on the wing, and Antonio super sub to boss the tired defence. I get it. I think Somerville should start, but who goes up front? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Mo can't go up front. Anyone who thinks Mo's a centre forward, please don't. He's not. He's not a centre forward. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's not the game to start experimenting, is it?
No. And the thing is, if he does not do it, everyone comes down on him and says, "Oh, like he's shit. He's this. He's that." You don't put Mohamed Kudus as a centre forward for me. Antonio's a tricky one because we know he will gas after about 60 minutes, and then you've got no one else on the bench who can come on and really make a difference. Do you know what I mean? Danny Ings, like the shouts for Danny Ings that I've seen on social media, is just like, fuck me. These are the same people that wanted this geezer out the door because he was on too much dough. And now they're saying, "I'll give him a start." Like, I'm sorry, this geezer's not good enough. He's not good enough to at Spurs away. He ain't gonna cut it at Spurs away for me. And I think we need to go with a fluid front four. That means you've got to have Mikel Antonio on the bench for me. You've got to have Bowen, who hasn't played international football, so he's going to be fully fit, raring to go. You're going to have Mohamed Kudus, who he's going to be coming back from international, but he's going to be a bit deflated because his country hasn't qualified for the African Cup of Nations, I don't think. And for me, I would rather trust Mo than Antonio in this situation. This is a game where we need a front four on it from the start. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm going to throw something out there, a bit of a football cliche, just something to consider. And that football cliche is you don't change a winning team. Now, I know this is gonna rile you up, right? The thumbs downs come out. It's quite but just to throw this one out there, and I don't know if Lopetegui will think this way, but maybe he will. We've just turned a team over, and without wanting, we've dissected and post-mortemed that to death, so we don't have to go back over that. But we just turned a team over 4-1. Yes, they're not great, but we did. Mo looked as good as he's looked on the left-hand side. Not going to say that he was at his free-flying best, but
he can't be on the left though, Jay.
Hear me out. Because he was looking better and better. He was getting himself involved in the game more. Now, bear this in mind as well. Spurs like to push their fullbacks really high up the pitch. So if we're going to catch them on a counter-attack, would you rather have Kudus and Bowen on the wings, or would you rather have Kudus and Somerville on the wings? Kudus and Somerville, who are fairly, I'm going to say they're more similar than Kudus and Bowen are. Where what will happen on the counter if there's fullbacks that are further forward? Bowen will be out wide, he'll stretch the play, and he'll dart in behind. We don't have another natural player who will want to dart in behind like that. That's not Mo's game, and I don't think it's Somerville's game as well. So just bear that in mind when we're talking about this, in that we won 4-1 last game. Yes, this is a different test, but Bowen on the right-hand side will be really, really useful against fullbacks that are going to push on.
I don't know. Because the thing is with Mo, he's not a left-sided attacker. Yeah, so this is the problem that we've got. We've got a player that is not a left-sided attacker. Lopetegui keeps playing on the left-hand side. And then you've got a problem when he isn't performing. Now, listen, he played very well against Ipswich Town. I'll give him that. Yeah, and I said it before. I thought he was excellent in that game. But is he going to be the same Mohamed Kudus against Ipswich Town that he is going to be against Spurs and Manchester United? I don't believe so, mate. I really don't. I look at him and I see a player that, for me, needs to be playing either centrally, 10, or on the right. Now, for me, like, Somerville should start and he should play, but he ain't going to play. And this is where it goes back to Lopetegui. And he hasn't played Somerville since the Chelsea game, which I do not understand why. I don't understand what he's done to be dropped to a point. But I get the argument about not changing a winning team, but I think we have got to play the occasion also in this game. Yeah, because this is a game where if we go toe to toe against this mob, we will be done, and it will be a fucking annihilation by them. Do you know what I'm saying? The issue when I say about Antonio up front against Van der Ven, Van der Ven's always going to skin him for pace every single time. Do you know what I mean? And no one's going to be really challenging him to a point. Do you know what I'm saying?
But my argument with that is, because I completely agree with you, like Antonio's days of being a speed merchant are completely done. But Van der Ven will skin Bowen for pace. Van der Ven will skin any one of our team for pace. We have not got anybody who can keep up with that bloke. So why I try and play him at that game is my theory on this, is get Antonio in there to rough him up and play him at a more physical game. Because there's not many strikers who play that style of football nowadays. Certainly not at the level that West Ham are at, where we realistically will be competing probably for top half this season. But with a fair wind, we might be scraping 8th or 7th, right? So you won't get many teams that have the individual capabilities that West Ham have got, combined with a striker who's just going to try and be physical against you. So it's going to be something different for him to think about. And that is going to get Van der Ven more likely to create a mistake than if you're trying to run him behind, where he'll just do you for pace anyway. So that's where in my brain, I'm like, there's a big case for Antonio to start. I agree with the question marks over, is he going to be fit enough? And are you then carrying a passenger for probably about half an hour? If you start him and leave Bowen on the right, and then what do? Do you put a tired Jared Bowen up front afterwards and have to then try and do Van der Ven for pace? It doesn't, none of it really sits right with me. None of it really is the right solution for me.
I agree. But what is the setup then? Because I think that is the main problem, is how are we going to set up against this team? Are we going to go high line toe to toe? Are we going to go mid block and wait to counter this team? Or how are we going about it?
I think, look at that first half against Liverpool at Anfield. That's how it needs to be. That's not me saying start Danny Ings up front, by the way. Yeah. But the way that we set up was mid-block. We were mid-block. We weren't fully pressing them across the entire pitch, but we weren't letting them just play through us. Souček was really good in that first half. Alvarez was a headless chicken, but we can talk about him in a moment. But Souček was really, really good in that game. And Souček's in really good form at the minute as well. So I think mid-block, Todibo has the pace to recover if we need to recover. Wan-Bissaka, we need a big game from Wan-Bissaka. I'll tell you that much. Timo Werner, if he starts on that left-hand side, he is rapid. Yes, he couldn't hit a cow's ass with a banjo. But at the same time, he is so quick. Wan-Bissaka is prone to falling asleep and losing positioning. So I say mid-block, defense have got to be switched on. Souček needs to have a good game. Whether you play Alvarez or Rodriguez is another question altogether, because whoever plays there is going to be very, very important. Rodriguez, whilst he had his best game for West Ham the other day, can you trust him away at Spurs?
No.
I don't know if you can. I really don't. But then Alvarez, he also has just played for Mexico. They beat USA 2-0 the other day. I know there's a lot of viewers on this channel who won't be happy with me mentioning that. But at the same time, he's just played in Mexico and he's got to come all the way back and then play against Spurs. So is he then going to be fit enough to play 90 minutes at 100% concentration when we know he's not had a great season so far? So there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of individuals who are going to need to step up for this game. And the last bit I'll say about this is where Lopetegui and his man management and his passion needs to come through, because he needs to remind the players how big this game actually is and what they're going to have to do to win it. And then what it's going to do to the fan base if we do win it, because this buys so much time and so much credit in the bank for Lopetegui if we manage to get a result here. And he needs to remind those players that's how important this game is.
That's why I'm a bit wary of him, mate, and a bit sort of sceptical about this game. I really am. When I look at what you just said, spot on, but the mid-block, Liverpool away, first half, I think we was all right. I did think we'd done all right in that game. The issue I've got is what striker fits that mid-block, though? That's the problem. And who can do that role and also not affect the other players behind? So is it Antonio? Is Antonio really worth starting and then losing on the 60th minute? Because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's tough, isn't it? There's another, before we come back to that, because the piece in the puzzle that we haven't talked about here as well is Lucas Paquetá. who had his probably again. I did a deeper dive on Lucas Paquetá a few days ago. If you haven't watched it, do watch it. He just come off the back of one of his better performances of the season. I'm not saying he tore the house down, but he got a much needed goal for his confidence. He had a bit of a stinker in the first half, but he was pretty reasonable in the second half. And as I say, got his goal. In a game like this, that midfield two pales into insignificance if you're carrying a passenger as a third midfielder. We know that Lopetegui is likely to step up with like a 4-3-3. It's going to be a flat three. It's going to be fairly fluid. Souček will get forward at times. Paquetá, if it's him, will get forward at times. Can we really afford for Lucas Paquetá to play the way he did in that first half against Ipswich, where he ghosted in the transitions? He didn't really want to be involved too much. And when he was in the final third, he just gave the ball away. His passing stats were really not good. And I'm glad, like, you use the eye test and then check the stats to see if your eye test was right. And more often than not, your eye test is right. And in that game where he just kept trying to dink it over the top for Bowen, that ain't going to work in this game. Like, that just is not going to work. So that man, if Lucas Paquetá starts, he knows what this fixture means to West Ham. He's played in it a number of times now. I think he made his debut in this game at home. And
as a sub.
Yeah, and the reception he got was so special. As soon as he took his train top off, everyone stood up and was so excited for him. And the feel around the stadium was so special. I miss that Lucas Paquetá because when he got on the ball, it was electric. And it reminded me of, and I make this comparison very skeptically, but it reminded me of when Payet used to get the ball. And just the feeling around the stadium was like, right, this man could create something. And he came really close, I remember in that game. Came really close at the end to winning the game for us. I want that bloke to come back in this game. If that bloke comes back who plays with arrogance and plays with flair and plays going, I know this is a big game, so I'm just going to have fun. If he can find that in him, then, you know, he could be the missing piece in this puzzle that wins us that game. My instinct says he won't. And we have to then look at, is there a way of us playing Souček, Alvarez, probably, we think it's Alvarez, and then Mo in the 10, where I think this is the kind of game where in transition he would be so dangerous getting the ball with back to goal, because he'll lure Van der Ven in. Van der Ven's the type of defender who, because he's got so much pace, because he reads the game so well, he will want to step forward and nick the ball off of him. And Mo is at his best when a defender wants to step forward and get the ball off of him. So I think if you stuck Mo in the middle in this game, played Bowen on the right, Somerville on the left, and took Paquetá out, or put Paquetá on the left. Again, something that I've talked about in the video I did the other day, where he'll bring the best out of Emerson and he'll bring the best out of Bowen because he's so good at tucking in and finding the switch to Bowen. That is a formation or a setup that I think has a lot to offer in this game. If you can get Mo central, then he's going to bring a dynamic that we haven't had this season. But my problem is we don't play with a number 10. We play with a flat 3. So as much as it sounds great in my head, I know that's probably not going to happen because we don't play with a number 10.
Paul says here, Somerville left wing, Mo false 9, Bowen right wing for me, Soler, Mickey on the bench. I can't have Mo up front, Paul. Sorry, mate. Can't do it. Because what they will do, they will just push him wide. They're pushing wide. Mo's not a false 9. I don't care what anyone says. Like, you're better off having Bowen up front. These Bowen will run in behind to a point. Do you know what I'm saying? It keeps and press the defenders. Like even last season, he was up front for us in this game. Right, this was when West Ham played that sort of 4-3-3, and you had Bowen, Paquetá, and Kudus, and Bowen was up front. I'd rather have Bowen up front, pressing their defenders, running the channels and doing all that, rather than Mo. Because I think Mo, I don't want to say he's lazy, but will Mo do that? I don't agree so, mate. I really don't. So I'd rather him as a 10. What you said about Van der Ven, completely agree. If the ball comes to Mo, Van der Ven's the sort of player that tries to nip in there and nick the ball off him. If Mo can spin in behind, it's over, mate. Mo's in. Then once Mo's in, then you've got the flying wingers of Bowen or Somerville, whoever, on either flank. The problem we've got, this is one of the major problems that we got at West Ham, is Lucas Paquetá is a liability. And the man is a liability, but he's undroppable.
Yeah. It's such a weird situation, isn't it? Like, And the reason I wanted to talk about him in that video the other day is because I've still got a lot of love for the bloke. Like, I have so much time for like a maverick, somebody who is unapologetically themselves, who will just play the game. He plays it in, I say plays. If we look at peak Lucas Paquetá plays just like he has zero cares in the world. Like, he is just having fun with his mates. But to your point, you're 100% right. Like, he's a complete liability at the moment because he is the weak spot in that midfield three. We need that player in there who is going to step up, get the ball, and progress it, because neither Alvarez or Souček are that player. Now, the call for Soler in that that lineup from Paul, I like the idea, but this is not the game to start Soler for me. He's not ready to be starting a Premier League game, let alone start away to Spurs. He is our cardio king at the moment. Like, he's got a lot of energy, but yeah. Other than that, can anyone tell me what he's done? I would rather see him come on with 30 minutes to go against the tiring Spurs and see that energy and see if he can create something. I know he had a couple of glimpses against Brentford, but a couple of glimpses away to Brentford does not warrant you a start away to Spurs, in my opinion.
I thought he was all right. I thought he was okay against Brentford. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. When he came on, he did help us to a point. He wasn't shit. The issue that we've got is with Lopetegui to a point, because Lopetegui is going to have to make sure he gets this right. Yeah, his lineup has got to be absolutely spot on from the start, and there can't be no fuck ups on this one. If he goes out and he fucks up the lineup, we could be 2 or 3-0 down. Like, Spurs are coming, right, and they're going to come and really want to make a statement, especially after the way they lost the last time out against Brighton. And the thing is with us, when we go to this gaff, we never start well. We are shaky at best. Last season, we could have easily been 4 or 5-0 down in that first half. I remember that game, clear as day. Romero scored, and they were just bombarding their goal. Then something happened at half time, and like David Moyes and the team turned into fucking Pep Guardiola and Man City, because they come out second half and they end up winning the game. So West Ham do need to stay in this game in the first half. Do you know what I'm saying? And not be out of it. I fear for Lopetegui on this one, because he has to get this one spot on. So let me get this straight then, Jay. What is the best striker or centre forward that we've got who can fit West Ham for Spurs away?
God, that's such a hard question. It's the whole purpose of this video, and I'm like, James, I don't know, but I can't cop out, can I? Yeah. I'll tell you what I would say. I would say, for me, if it hadn't just been an international break, I would say Antonio. I would 100% say Antonio if he was fully fit and he was rested. The thing that throws it out for me is his fatigue and his inability to last more than 45 minutes nowadays. That is why I'm so on the fence. If it's me, because I've got to give an answer. I can't sit on the fence, can I? If it's me, I think I do start Antonio. I think I do. And I think if there's a way for me of starting, I think you need to start Alvarez and Souček deep and leave them quite rigid and quite structured, because Spurs will play with 3 attacking midfielders. I got a little bit of stick for suggesting at one point that we play a 6, an 8, and a 10 in midfield in Alvarez, Paquetá, and Kudus. I don't believe we should be doing that nowadays. But Spurs don't even play a 6. They play 3 attacking midfielders in the middle, and they just try and bombard you. So we need 2 players who are deeper and a bit more structured, and then we need someone in front of them. So for me, I would play Kudus behind Antonio, because Kudus will be able to spin someone, and he'll be good for knockdowns if Antonio manages to beat Van der Ven in the air. It ain't perfect. I'm not going to say that I believe that team is going to go and win at Spurs. I think we're in for if I'm honest, I think we're in for a lot of pain at the weekends. I think it's going to be a really difficult game. We could be a few down in the first half. But for me, I think I do start Antonio, and I just see how it goes.
This game, this is the one game I fucking hate all season. Yeah. Because I'm going to say it, I fucking hate them. I hate them with a passion. And I've got mates who are Spurs fans. I love me mates to bits, but we have some rounds when it comes to West Ham and Spurs. I mean, proper rounds. I look at this game and I just fear that Lopetegui is going to try and shoehorn Antonio into this game after Jamaica, and then we're going to sort of have him up there not doing a lot, basically. Do you know what I'm saying? And I get it. Like, if you want to try and play on the counter, then you don't have Antonio in this game. You know what I mean? You have Somerville, Kudus, Bowen, even as a front three to a point. That's not a bad front three. And then you sort of rotate Bowen around and put Kudus on the right, Bowen as a centre forward. For me, I do fear on this one that if Lopetegui doesn't get this one right, then the fucking knives will be sharpened and people will be wanting to string him up to a point. Do you know what I'm saying? Danny Ings is definitely not. That's a definite no for me. I'm sorry. If we're going back to Danny Ings, then the window's been a complete fucking failure.
Yeah.
And I look at the midfield. Like we've said, Guido Rodriguez in that midfield. I see what the chat's saying there. Like, saying he's so slow. He is slow. He's going to be. There's no point having him in there. I would probably go with Soler, Alvarez, and Paquetá in this game. I really would. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'll try and, or even Souček to a point. I don't know. It's going to be fucking. It's going to be.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't take Souček out of that side for me. Souček's been really good recently. I say really good. Last 2-3 games, he's been probably our best player. Well, no, probably not our best player. Most consistent player, shall we say? He's done everything right, and I think we're going to need him in this game. As much grief as the bloke gets, he's been solid so far this season, and that you have to find a way of getting him to sit a little bit deeper. And for God's sake, can we actually find one of our own players from a set piece? Souček literally exists. Can we actually try and find his big check bounce from a corner? Because at the moment, all we're doing is hoofing it straight into the goalkeeper's hands. So, I think Souček is going to be so important in this game. And I just don't think it's the game for Soler. I think at the moment, he is Pablo Fornals without the passion. That's all I see. And I would I tell you what, if you could give me Pablo Fornals right now, I would chuck him straight in the starting lineup because he knows what it means. To your point earlier, we need players who know what it means in this game. And to go back to the Mikel Antonio point, he scored a number of goals against Spurs over the years. He scored some big goals against Spurs over the years.
Yes, I was there in 2019. I was in that ground when that goal went in. And trust me, I was there on the outside of the ground when it was all kicking off. It's a game that if we win it, we love it. If we lose it, we despise it. Yeah, and we really do despise it to a point. It's like, for me, that's Antonio 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It's not Antonio now. Do you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, I think when I look at him, I think I want him to do so. I want him to do well, Antonio, but I just don't see it in this game. Right, that's the one thing I will say. And I agree with you. Soler. If I said to you right now, Jay, you've got a choice between Soler or Paquetá, who would you put in?
I start Paquetá. For me, I start Paquetá. I still have this. It's blind faith at this point. It is pure blind faith. I still believe that he will come good again this season, whether it be for one game, whether it be for a month, I don't know. But this is the kind of game where, to go back to that point, you need players who know what it means in this game and who understand the club. Paquetá understands the club. He ain't himself, but at the same time, I would sooner give Paquetá a go for even just the first half. If it doesn't work in the first half, drag him at half time and then bring Soler on. And give Soler 45 minutes because he'd done well against Brentford when he come on and had something to prove. And to Paquetá, you can turn to him and go, right, we need you. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And if you don't, then we're going to have to drag you. And it's as simple as that. And that way, we know that Lopetegui is not scared to make changes at half time. So I would rather start Paquetá, see what he can do, than start Soler and watch him run around for 45 minutes.
It's a tricky one. I agree. Lucas Paquetá needs to liven up, but if you've got something on your mind, we've all been there in life. When you've got stuff on your mind, it weighs you down, and he's carrying 10 tons of weight on his shoulders. Do you know what I mean? At the minute, so I can understand it. I personally think, for the benefit of the club, and people might not like what I'm about to say, you should take him at the firing line completely. You say, right, what we're going to do? We're going to give him a couple of weeks off. We've got Soler there. We've got other players there. And we're going to go around it. I think playing him and trying to play him into form, it ain't going to work. Do you know what I mean? Because, listen, we've all been there. When you've got stuff on your mind and all that, you can't work like manually. Do you know what I mean? Your brain's elsewhere, your mind's elsewhere, but your body's there. So, yeah. Here's a question for you, Jay. If we're drawing late on or one behind, well, yeah, me last 10 minutes, Hail Mary. I'm still waiting, Jay. I'm still waiting for that moment.
I swear down, we didn't even talk about the bloke. Bowen up front, start Luis Guilherme. Give him a full 90 minutes. Where's Colin in the chat who was saying to throw him in against Brentford?
Yeah. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, mate, I'm all aboard the Luis Guilherme hype train. I'm here for it. He is going to, the day he scores that first goal, I'll send you a video of the scenes when I'm trashing my gaff. It's going to be so... It's going to be so good. Honestly, to go back to that Ipswich game when he was darting in at the back post and some of it was gone through. And I was out my seat, the only one around me, ready to go absolutely nuts for him. Imagine that. Like everyone just, we go 5-1 up and I go absolutely ballistic and everyone's like, chill out, it's Ipswich. Yeah. Mate, I would happily chuck that lad on for 10 minutes to go. I'm here for it. What a substitution. What a bloke.
Do you know what? I was there. I agree with you. I saw that moment and I was like, come on, someone will get that ball across. And Guilherme's at the back stick, just a little tap in for his first goal. Do you know what? If the game's level and we need a bit of pace, you chuck him on in this game. Because I think this is the sort of player where he'll be a fucking hero if he scores the winner, mate. Trust me. I will personally go out and I will buy Jay the yellow and green flares. It's fucking gaff, mate. And I will send them via Amazon Prime, mate. 100%. You know what I'm saying? Because it'll be happening. It'll be happening. But
like I say, if you're in the E16 area and you hear a lot of sirens, they're coming to my flat. I'll tell you that much.
Shout out to all the boys in East London. I will say that. Jay, any final words before we make a move, mate?
I don't think so. I think all I'd say is don't write players off too soon. Players like Mikel Antonio have made a career off of proving doubters wrong. So if he starts, as I know we all will, get behind him because he's still got 1 or 2 performances left in him, the old boy. He's got plenty left to offer. I'm desperate for a good Lucas Paquetá performance. I really am. I completely agree with you. I also don't like seeing people write this bloke off. He has done a lot for West Ham over the years. And somebody, I won't take credit just for this. I did mention it in the video, but if he doesn't play that ball through to Bowen in Prague, we don't have a trophy. It's as simple as that. So don't write that bloke off because all he needs is that one pass on the 90th minute. He could do nothing all game, but he could find that moment of genius that creates that memory for us and that wins us a big game. So back the players that know what it means to play for West Ham, back the players that know what this fixture means to the fans, and you never know what could happen.
Right, Füllkrug, I agree with you. I think no one can really judge him because we haven't seen him. Do you know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, until we see him play 10 games in the West Ham shirt, no one can really know how good this geezer really is. So I think that on the Füllkrug situation, people need to sort of slow down on social media, stop getting out their fucking prams about a player and saying about the transfer window and saying 1 minute it's amazing, next minute it's a failure. The striker failure. We all know it's a striker failure because he shouldn't have been here in the fucking first place, but he's here. Yeah, that's the first thing. The Lucas Paquetá thing, I agree with you to a point, but then I do disagree. I thank him for what he's done in Prague and everything else, but this man has got the weight of the universe on his shoulders at the minute. And when you're in that situation and you've got to try and do a job, it's very, very hard. Do you know what I'm saying? And let's have it right. We look to him to make stuff happen at West Ham United. And if he don't, then who else is creating for us? Yeah. And then obviously the striker front is an interesting one. Antonio, for me, had a really good game against Ipswich, but this is a different level. Even though I know full well he will be up for this game. He scores goals against Tottenham. He's done it all throughout his career with West Ham. Upton Park days, White Hart Lane days. He's always scored goals against this side. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's fit and firing. Now, he might be fit, raring to go. He might be sitting in his house right now going, I'm well up for this game. So let's hope he is. If he is, then we're going to, he's a bastard against them. He turns into prime Neymar against this mob. So we all know, if he turns up, we'll be all right. And finally, just to round this video right up from me, Lopetegui has to get this one right. Yeah, this is the one where I'm sorry, there is no more excuses now. You need to get the lineup right from the start, and you need to make sure that we're in this game on the 70th minute. If we get to the 70th minute and we've been blown out the water because he's fucked up, then he deserves criticism. Simple as that. And I don't want to knock the geezer, but every West Ham fan knows what this game means. Yeah, you haven't like this is the one where we look at and we go, we don't want to lose against this mob. Yeah, and if we do lose with dignity. That's one thing I will say. Not lose by getting a fucking good hiding. So he's going to have a lot of pressure on him on the weekend, and I hope he delivers. I will say that. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to E20 Zone TV. I will be back tomorrow, Friday, and then Saturday. I'm doing a full shift. Tomorrow, I've got an opposition fan coming on. That might be tasty. Me and Christian are going to go at it and talk about West Ham Spurs opposition preview. And then Friday, all the boys will be on. Jay, Lucas, and we'll be giving our sort of full in-depth analysis on this channel as much as we can. And hopefully we can be a bit more positive coming up to the game. Yeah. At the minute, I'm a bit apprehensive about the striker front. I don't know how he's going to go around this one. I don't know if he's going to play like a low block or a mid block or whatever. But it's going to be interesting. And obviously, Saturday is the game. I'll be on after full and all that. So yeah, listen, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit the notification bell and all that. Also, go and check out Jay's video. He done a good video the other day, yeah, and the views are fucking down on it, and I'm not impressed. Yeah, go and watch the shit. It was fucking good. The Lucas Paquetá video that Jay done the other day was absolutely superb, and it was 20 minutes of him looking at it from all sorts of angles, and basically talking about everything to do with Lucas Paquetá, because he's one player that does get a lot of stick, rightfully, wrongfully. It's on the fence. It's like it really is on the fence, but yeah. And yeah, enjoy yourself this Wednesday night, and I will see you again in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and above all else, each other.